In this video, I want to talk a little bit about the purposes of this class, some of the resources we'll be engaging, and then the assignments we'll be doing and the way that we'll be interacting with one another. There are three primary purposes to this class. The first is to prepare you for the standard ordination exam in church polity. The second is to give some practical skills in church leadership, particularly Presbyterian church leadership. And the third is to foster a broader reflective conversation about the nature of church polity in a rapidly changing context. There are 5 examinations that you must pass in order to become ordained as a Presbyterian teaching elder. One of those exams is the Bible content exam. It is multiple choice. The other 4 exams have a different structure. One of them is an exegesis exam. It has a particular structure in which you will pick a text, do reflection on it, and then prepare an exegetical at sermon outline or some other way that you show that you can understand and interpret the Bible. The remaining 3 exams, the worship and sacrament exam, the theological exam, and the church polity exam, are all based on case studies around particular situations, and in the case of the church polity exam, reflection on the Book of Order. This class is to help prepare you to take and pass that exam. In doing so, we'll be practicing some of the skills that help with the worship and sacraments and the theology exam. And I will talk more and more towards the end of the class how those interact and how you can continue to prepare for those exams. So at the end of this, I hope that you are more prepared to take particularly the standard ordination exam on church polity and then more broadly 2 other ordination exams. We also want to prepare you for church leadership as a Presbyterian Church USA teaching elder. This involves knowing our theology and polity and learning practical skills in moderating meetings and interpreting our polity for other church leaders. And so we'll be learning that and learning how to do that. Finally, we recognize that this is all happening in a rapidly changing context. And so this class works on reflecting even on the skills that we're learning in this context and learning how to do that so that you can continue to grow and develop in whatever skills are necessary and become necessary for you to thrive in the ministry context where you find yourself as a Presbyterian Church USA teaching elder. To do this, there are a number of books that I've asked you to get and some other readings that I will provide you during the course of our time together. The 2 primary texts with which we will engage are the Book of Confessions and the Book of Order of the Presbyterian Church USA. I'll say more about those. They are the 2 pieces of our church constitution, and we will engage in them consistently over the course of this class. There are then 2 texts that help us to live that out. One is a book by Joyce Gray and Joan Tucker, who wrote a book called Presbyterian Polity for Church Leaders. This is an interpretive book for particularly the Book of Order. There have been some changes in the Book of Order that are not yet reflected in that book, and we'll talk about that during this class. But even in those cases, it remains a really helpful book underlying the theological principles that support those areas of the Book of Order. I've asked you to get Robert's Rules of Order. We won't read all of it, but I think it's important for every Presbyterian teaching elder to have a copy of it because we are expected to have some facility with this, and if we've got questions, to be a resource for people to know what they're doing in terms of parliamentary procedure. And so we'll work with that book, and at the very least learning how to use it for where you find yourself in the future. There are then 2 books that I've asked you to get that help us move more broadly than that. One, a book by Dan Hotchkiss that helps us to reflect on church polity in a multi-denominational setting and to think about our polity and other polities and how this can happen in ways that support congregations more broadly. And I've asked to get Todd Bolsinger's Canoeing the Mountains book, which helps us to engage in the skills that are needed for the adaptive environments in which we find ourselves. We'll engage with those books. I encourage you to ask with any questions. I hope they do help you to think broadly and also particularly about this craft that all of us are learning to be teaching elders in the Presbyterian Church USA. To do that in this class, there'll be a number of ways that we engage. There'll be a weekly quiz. It will always be on the Book of Order. It will be open book. I recognize that when we're in ministry, there's some things about the Book of Order that I would hope that we learn and aren't really deeply inside of us, but we've got access to it. We can open it up. We can ask questions, and you are welcome to do that. There are 2 exams that we'll take, one midterm and one final. The reason that I do exams in this class is because I am preparing you to take the standard ordination exam. And the midterm and the final will both be taken from old sections of the standard ordination exam. It gives me a chance to give you feedback on how to write for that exam, how to reflect on this, and how to answer those questions. And I hope that's helpful to you. We also step into more reflective work by asking you to do a polity reflection paper, and you can read about more particularly about that assignment on the Moodle site. The other expectation for this class is active engagement, so not only with the materials but also with one another, as there's a weekly post and a response to that post, and I hope that those engender really rich discussions among us and learning among us. I look forward to engaging all this material. I hope that it shapes you well, that it prepares you to think theologically about your leadership, to lead well, and then to learn how to be a leader who continues to grow for wherever God takes you in the future.